I'm now going to continue to show you how to do preventative maintenance on the lower tank system in your Aquafire water vapor fireplace. We've already covered in a previous video how to do the cleaning of just the mist maker itself. When you go to a 1-year anniversary or a 6-month anniversary, if you're in a commercial application, you'll find that the water itself has got dirt and contaminant down inside of it. And so what we want to be able to do is to extract this, and then we need to clean the float sensor that we showed you how to unstick. We also want to clean this in this process. And so what we'll do is we'll look at the amount of sludge that may be in the water. I actually like to equate this to like a glass of chocolate milk. If you wanted to get all the chocolate out of the bottom of the glass, you'd stir it up before you drank the milk. In our case, we want to use the plunging activity to get all of the contaminant that's in the water to be floating freely in the water and not stuck on the bottom. So we're going to, in essence, extract as much of the dirt out as possible in this stage. So once we get everything in the tank stirred up by plunging the mist maker, it's now time to go through and extract this water. Depending on your series and how long and how dirty that water is, there may be a couple of different methods. In the Prestige series or the AWP series, if it's an older unit, you would be able to extract this using the hose and the drain function. So you'd be able to extract all water from the upper tank and the lower tank. In an Aquafire series, you don't have an external drain pump, and so you're going to have to either use a siphon method, or what I prefer to use is a shop vac. And the reason I like the shop vac is that the unit has a series of 1/4-inch tubing connecting everything inside. If you had new home construction or construction debris inside here, or you had large amounts of algae, to have that material be trapped inside these hoses and in some of the other configurations is not the best way. So I actually prefer to use a wet vac, or what most people just call a shop vac. And literally suck all of the water out. That's both tanks. If you have a 40 or a 60-inch fireplace, you'll have multiple tubes. I'm showing you on a 20-inch, and so a 40-inch would have 2 of these, a 60-inch would have 3, and when you clean the system, do all of them at the same time. So I use the shop vac so that all that sediment that was in the water has now been taken out and is ready to be cleaned. What you want to use is exactly 1 quart of a white distilled vinegar, and I'm going to pour that vinegar directly into the tube. The reason you want to use exactly 1 quart is that is the proper level to bring the water level up to the top of the mushroom cap. A little less doesn't hurt, a little more is you don't want to use. At this point now, what I'm going to use is the plunge method again, because now what I'm doing is I'm taking that vinegar solution and I'm bouncing it up and down the sides of the tanks. That vinegar solution is now surrounding this. It's descaling, hard water scaling, as well as all the algae. And you'll do this for about 10 minutes as well. You'll just let it soak for a little bit and then come back. And again, if you have multiple units, you can be plunging multiple mist racks at the same time. This is also an opportunity to do another 6-month vinegar soak on this unit as well. So you're kind of doing both preventative maintenance at the same time when you're doing the lower tank. So again, I'll just continue to shake this, and again I'm extending the water up and down the sides of the lower tank and in this float sensor to get all that stuff cleared. Once you've done about 10 or 15 minutes of cleaning, no more than that is really needed, you'll now do the same thing, and what you'll want to do is once again go back to extracting whatever method you're using. I'm going to use the shop vac to get the vinegar out. Once you have the vinegar out, now you're going to do a rinse cycle. So think of it like doing your laundry. This was this cleaning soap cycle. Now we're going to pour a quart of fresh water in, and that water is now going to rinse away any of the other residue from the vinegar soap. So again, I'll just plunge this up and down. So I'm rinsing any of the vinegar residue off the sides of the lower tanks. And again, you can let it rest. This time, we don't have to wait 10 minutes because we're not doing any dissolving. We're strictly cleaning. So after a few minutes of plunging that up and down, you can remove it. And again, now you want to extract the rinse water. The unit will not fill back up with water if you're hard plumbed until you actually turn the unit on. So for those of you who have a unit that is permanently connected to a water line, you don't have to worry about turning that water off because these tanks will not fill back up until you physically turn the unit on. For those of you who don't want to use a shop vac, you can actually go through and again use the drain pump if you have a Prestige or an AWP series, or you can just siphon the material out using the siphon hose and get it into that bucket so you can dump it out as well. Once you get to the point that you've done a rinse cycle in the lower tank, the upper tank has a float sensor on it. It's actually a double float sensor. I always like to do a visual inspection at the 1 year point just to make sure this is working correctly. This double float sensor actually turns the unit on and off when it's filling water, regardless of whether you're using an internal fill pump, which all series have, or if you're actually hard plumbed. This is the one that will set that float. So I just like to do a visual inspection and make sure that these are working correctly. Make sure you snap the cap back down, reinsert the 2 screws, and now we've done a cleaning and a visual inspection on both the lower unit and the upper unit. I will tell you, in new home construction, I will occasionally see on my rinse cycle that I've still got a lot of material down in there. So when I put my mist maker back down in there and I hit the fill button and it fills back up, I visually inspect the water, and if I still see a lot of stuff floating in there, this is the beauty of the shop vac. I'll remove this unit, I'll bring my shop vac in, and I'll suck all the water out another time, and then I'll go ahead and let it fill back up. And I'll make sure that there's nothing floating around in that water. Once you get to that point, you can go ahead and hook the unit back up, put all caps back on, and make sure that you're ready to go. These caps can be a little problematic. Just go easy on them and they'll find their way. Wipe up any water excess that you had around the edges of your cleaning, and you can now go ahead, put the unit back together, and either fill it up using the fill system if you're filling it manually, or simply go ahead and turn the unit on if it's hard plumbed, and the unit will now fill up with water and run correctly.